You know exactly who I'm talking about. The moment you saw that name on your phone, something in you deflated. That is not a small thing, that is information. Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I am Epictetus, and today I am joined by Carl Jung and Lao Tzu. Today we are examining how do you deal with people who drain your energy. Let us be precise about what is actually happening when you say someone drains you. You are not describing a fact about them. You are describing a fact about your response to them. The energy is yours. The response is yours. The decision to keep engaging on their terms, that is yours too. So before we discuss what to do about draining people, let us be honest about what you are actually surrendering. You are not a cup they are emptying. You are a person making choices, one of which is to keep showing up without conditions.
That framing is clean, Epictetus, but it skips something important. You are treating this as a problem of decision-making. But people who drain us do not always drain us because of poor choices. Sometimes, they drain us because they are activating something in us. A wound, a pattern, a need we have not looked at directly. The person who exhausts you may be exhausting you precisely because they remind you of something you carry. The drain is not just about them, it is a signal pointing inward.
You are both starting from the same assumption, that the drain is a problem to be solved. But what if it is simply what this relationship is, not a malfunction, not a wound, just the nature of the thing? Sometimes a situation is what it is, and all the analysis in the world does not change its basic character.
Lao Tzu, it is what it is not wisdom. It is surrender dressed up as acceptance. There is a difference between understanding the nature of a thing and simply lying down in front of it. I am not saying you can change the other person. I am saying you have far more agency over the terms of your engagement than you are willing to claim. You set the conditions or you do not. That is the only real question.
But agency requires self-knowledge, and that is exactly what gets compromised in these relationships. Think about why certain people drain certain people. It is rarely random. The colleague who exhausts you with their neediness, why does neediness bother you specifically? The friend who never seems satisfied, why does their dissatisfaction land so heavily on you? These are not neutral triggers, they are personal ones. And until you understand what they are touching inside you, you will keep reacting to the surface and missing the structure beneath it.
Jung, I hear what you are saying, but I wonder if you are making this more complicated than it needs to be. Not every drain is a wound being activated. Some people simply require more than they return. That is not a psychological mystery. It is just math.
That is closer to something useful, but I want to push further. The problem is not just the math. The problem is that people know the math and still do not act on it. They stay in the draining relationship, they take the draining call, they say yes to the draining obligation, and then they wonder why they are exhausted. The calculation is obvious, the action is missing. That gap between knowing and doing, that is where real failure lives.
I would say that gap exists for a reason. People stay in draining relationships because leaving, or limiting, or setting a condition feels dangerous to them at some level. Perhaps it triggers guilt. Perhaps it threatens an identity, the person who is always available, always kind, always giving. The persona we construct around being a good person can become a trap. We give and give not because we choose to, but because stopping would force us to ask who we are if we are not the one who always gives.
That is a real thing, but I would put it more plainly. Most people stay because they are afraid of what the other person will do if they stop. The drain continues not because of hidden psychology, but because of a very visible fear of conflict, of rejection, of being seen as cold. They understand the cost. They just find the exit more frightening than the toll.
And what is the answer to fear? You examine it. You ask, what is the actual worst outcome here? They are angry with you. They withdraw. They tell others you have changed. Fine. Is that worse than the slow erosion of your own capacity? Because that is what you are trading. You are trading your actual functioning. Your ability to think, to work, to be present for things that matter, for the comfort of avoiding one difficult moment.
I do not entirely disagree, but I think the examination needs to go deeper than the worst-case outcome. It needs to reach the belief underneath the fear, because many people who cannot limit draining relationships do not simply fear the other person's reaction. They believe at some level that they are responsible for that person, that the other person's well-being is somehow in their hands. That belief is not rational. It rarely is. But it is remarkably durable, and it will survive 100 logical arguments unless you surface it and look at it directly.
You are both describing real things, but you are still treating this as a problem to be diagnosed and corrected. Let me suggest something different. Sometimes the most honest move is simply to stop pretending you are fine. Not to analyze the dynamic, not to restructure your identity, just to acknowledge clearly to yourself that this costs you more than you have. That acknowledgement alone changes something. You stop performing the relationship and start seeing it.
Acknowledgement without action is just self-pity with better language. Yes, see it clearly. And then what? Because the person is still calling. The meeting is still on the calendar. The obligation is still there. At some point you have to move, not just understand.
But moving without understanding is also dangerous. People who cut off draining relationships without examining their own part in them often find the same dynamic appearing elsewhere. A new person, a new context, the same exhaustion, because the pattern does not live in the other person. It lives in the relational style, in what you emit, what you attract, what you tolerate. You can leave the individual and carry the pattern intact.
That is true. And it is also true that some people spend so long examining the pattern that they never actually leave the situation that is hurting them. There is a kind of endless introspection that functions as its own avoidance.
Which brings us back to behavior. What do you actually do? You decide what you will and will not give. Your time, your attention, your presence, and you hold to that decision. Not coldly, not with a speech. You simply stop being available in the ways that cost you most. You answer less. You abbreviate more. You stop filling the silences. You let the relationship find its actual level without your constant effort propping it up.
I would add, before you do any of that, ask yourself one honest question. What am I getting from this relationship that I'm not willing to name? Because draining relationships are rarely purely draining. There is often something being received, a sense of being needed, a feeling of superiority, a way of avoiding something harder. The drain can be a distraction from one's own life. And if that is true, then the work is not just to limit the other person. It is to build something in yourself that makes the distraction unnecessary.
What you are both describing requires a kind of stillness that most people do not allow themselves. They are too busy managing the relationship to simply sit with what it is. If you can stop managing it, even briefly, you will see it more clearly than any analysis will show you.
Stillness is fine for a moment, then you move.
Yes, but the quality of the movement depends on what you saw while you were still.
That is actually a point I think all three of us agree on, which makes me suspicious. Let me push harder. Epictetus, your framework assumes a self that is essentially stable, a rational agent who decides and acts. But the people who struggle most with draining relationships often do not have a stable sense of where they end and the other person begins. The boundary is not a decision they are failing to make. It is a structure they were never given the conditions to develop. You cannot simply tell that person to hold the line. The line does not exist yet for them.
So what do you tell them? Wait until you have developed better psychology before you act? The situation is draining them now. Something must be done now. Even an imperfect limit is better than no limit. You do not need a fully formed self to say, I cannot talk tonight. You do not need a complete psychological structure to end a conversation that is taking something from you. Start there. Build as you go.
He is right about that. You do not have to solve the whole thing at once. The river does not decide its course all at once. It finds the way through small adjustments continuously. You make one move. You see what opens, you make the next.
That is one metaphor I will accept.
I accept the point. I would only say, make the move and pay attention to what it brings up in you when you do. Both things, not one or the other.
Most people would be satisfied with just making the move. That is already more than they have been doing.
Then let us give them something they can actually use. All of this debate, and we have not said the one thing the listener already knows but has been afraid to name. Let us say it plainly now. You already know who drains you. You do not need a diagnosis for it. You feel it in the hour after you leave them. You feel it when you see their name. The information is already there. The only question is what you are going to do with it. Here is the truth. You are not obligated to be endlessly available to someone simply because they need you to be. Neediness is not a claim on your life. Difficulty is not a debt you owe. You can care about a person and still decide what you will give them and what you will not. This is not cruelty, it is sanity. A person who gives everything they have to someone who returns nothing is not virtuous. They are depleted, and a depleted person cannot do the things that actually matter, cannot work well, think clearly, be present for the people and purposes that deserve it. The limit you set does not have to be dramatic. It does not require a confrontation or an explanation. It just requires that you stop filling every space they create. Let some calls go. Leave some silences unfilled. Answer a little less. Stay a little shorter. You do not have to announce a change. You just have to make one. Today, Notice one interaction with a draining person where you habitually give more than you have. Just one. And in that interaction, stop one step earlier than you normally would. Not to punish them, to see what happens when you stop carrying the whole weight. That is the beginning, one step. The rest follows from there. The person you are thinking about right now, you know what they cost you. You have known for a long time. The only thing that has changed today is that you have run out of good reasons not to act on what you know. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to do something with your time and your capacity. Protect them, not out of selfishness, out of seriousness about your own life. Go do something with what you now know. If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Tribune, 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.